Welcome to one and all for our 36th session, and very good morning to our family in US and Canada. It's been an exciting week. Again, we have very interesting speakers today. We have Axel. I'm still struggling to get his surname. Jarvengren. Please apologize if I have not pronounced it correctly. He's from Sweden. He's right now enjoying in his summer holiday home and 200 meters away from the sea ocean. Thanks, Axel, for joining this session, and I'm sure you will put a lot more light why on Jainism and what you practice every day. We also have a moderator, Ashi Chandalia, very interesting. I just came to know that she's a student of Neil Shah, which she said in just one word, a lot of why he has answered. So Neil always is very clear in answering why, and people get more trust on the things what we do. So thank you, Neil. Thank you, Ashi. So you can share some of your experiences. Ashi today is going to help us to moderate this session. Whatever Axel has going to speak in English, and Ashi will try to communicate that in Hindi to our audience, and she will put her best foot forward. Thank you so much. Ashi, hand over to you to introduce yourself and then Axel and take this session forward. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Also, I just want to clarify, I will be taking a little help from Neil Bhaiya at points where I have to translate it to Hindi as well, because I don't want to sound too rash when I'm explaining it in Hindi. So I'm just going to take his help as well. But anyway, my name is Ashi, and I am Neil Bhaiya's student. In every way, he's answered a lot of whys for me, as you correctly put it out. My journey in understanding Jainism in its truest form started when I was 16 years old, and I have thoroughly enjoyed learning it. And right now, also, I am looking forward for a great session where we are going to learn a lot more from Axel. So, yes, Axel, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I can, start asking you some questions.
Yes, my name is Axel Jarvengren. I'm 35 years old. I live in Sweden. I work in real estate and publishing, and I have a master's degree in economics and a bachelor in engineering. I've been working at hedge fund and management consulting and entrepreneurial activities. That's my professional life. Then I also have a lot of study topics that we will delve into, which has been for the last 10 years or so very much related to Jainism and neighboring sciences, just as.
All right, awesome. So my first question to you, Axel, is that you talk about your professional life and all of this. It makes a lot of sense. But what brought you to Jainism? Like you're all the way in Sweden, and we had a talk before this, and you spoke about how you were born into a Christian family. So what brought you to choose the path of Jainism? I'll just quickly translate this for all of them who it'll be easier for everyone else. So मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन एक्सेल के लिए ये है कि वो स्वीडन में है और उन्होंने अभी उनके प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के बारे में बताया कि वो उन्होंने मास्टर्स इकोनॉमिक्स में किया है और बैचलर्स इंजीनियरिंग में की है और वो हेज फंड में काम करते हैं, और ये सब के बावजूद भी उन्होंने एक ऐसा धर्म अपनाया जो उनसे बहुत ही ज्यादा अलग है, उनके कल्चर से बहुत अलग है. वो क्रिश्चियन फैमिली में पैदा हुए थे, पर तो भी उन्होंने जैनिज्म अपनाया. तो मुझे मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि ऐसा उन्होंने क्यों किया और ये उनसे कैसे हुआ. So Axel, please.
So it was while I was studying economics at an elite economic school in Stockholm School of Economics. I had a little twist of faith in my studies and so on. I didn't find them to be totally convincing, and I got a hold of a book. I was recommended a book on anthropology, of how African tribes lived 200,000 years ago in nomadic tribes of 100 people or so, and how that would have been the natural way for people living all over the world. So with that perspective, a sort of scientific perspective, I was looking into different religions that were kind of organizing themselves as nomadic tribes within civilization, within agricultural society. So then I was studying Judaism, I was studying Zoroastrianism from Iran, and Confucianism in China, and also Gypsies or Romani in southern Europe. And then I also got in contact with Jainism, and pretty immediately I got in contact with a great bookseller in Mumbai, Manish Moody, and my grandfather, he was a bookseller. So Manish, he said that then we are of the same caste. I started buying books, so we had a connection, and I started buying books from him. And the first book I bought and read was the Jaina Path of Purification. And then when I was reading about an understanding about that the Munis in Jainism are nomads and are naked, just like ancestors 200,000 years ago. For me, it has no meaning if they are from Africa or India or so on. I'm at least at that point, and not now either. So I knew from the beginning that this would be a very good knowledge ride, a good well of knowledge. So I dived into this well of knowledge, buying books from Manish. I have probably 50, 60 books from him. He's a good bookseller. And then after some time, he invited me over to India. So I came down and spent a month there with a friend of mine who was coming from Sweden. And there I met Pushparam Sagarji, who has become my guru. He's been my guru ever since, the great Digambar Muni. And that was about 10 years ago.
10 years, wow. Okay, so obviously he said a lot, and I'm going to now quickly summarize what I've understood of what Axel has just said. तो इन्होंने ये कहा कि जब वो इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ रहे थे, उनके मास्टर्स कर रहे थे, तभी उन्हें काफी जिज्ञासा हुई नई चीजें जानने के बारे में, नए रिलीजन्स जानने के बारे में. तो उन्होंने काफी अलग अलग रिलीजन्स के बारे में स्टडी करना चालू किया. तो उन्होंने क्वेकर रिलीजन के बारे में पढ़ना चालू किया, उन्होंने चाइनीज रिलीजन्स के बारे में पढ़ना चालू किया, जुडाइज्म, ज़ोरास्ट्रियनिज्म जो हमारे यहाँ भी काफी लोग फॉलो करते हैं, इन सब चीजों के बारे में उन्होंने जानना चालू किया. और फिर उन्हें एक बुक मिली, और वो बुक थी एक जैन बुक जिसमें जैनिज्म के बारे में काफी चीजें लिखी हुई थी. और उन्होंने वो पढ़ा और उन्हें काफी और जानने की इच्छा हुई, और धीरे धीरे उन्होंने उनकी क्यूरियोसिटी ऐसी बढ़ी कि उन्होंने इंडिया एक इनके लिए बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट पर्सन रहे हैं. एंड उन्होंने मुझे पहले भी बताया है, मनीष मोदी जी, जिन्होंने उन्हें काफी बुक्स के द्वारा जैनिज्म के बारे में समझाई चीजें. तो उनकी और ज्यादा उस चीज में क्यूरियोसिटी बढ़ी, और अब 10 साल हो चुके हैं और उन्होंने तभी से जैनिज्म को अपनाया है और उनके उस चीज को फॉलो किया है. और ऑफ कोर्स उन्होंने उनके गुरुजी के बारे में भी बताया है, जो दिगंबर गुरुजी हैं, पुष्पानंद सागर जी, जिनको ये फॉलो करते हैं. तो उसके बारे में मैं भी पूछने वाली हूँ अभी. तो अभी तक तो यही बताया है. थैंक यू एक्सेल. सो दैट मेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ सेंस. सो you spoke about your curiosity towards Jainism. You started following the path. So now I want to know, what exactly is it that has changed in your lifestyle? How has your lifestyle changed in the last 10 years compared to what it was before that, before you started following Jainism?
Vegetarian diet. I wasn't brought up with a vegetarian diet, and then of course, actually of the 5 vows, the Manu Bratas, here in Western religions and in the religion that I was brought up with, my parents aren't very very, very religious. But anyway, in it you have non-violence, you have non-stealing, you have that you should practice chastity, and you shouldn't lie to people. That is like pretty given. But the aparigra vow is not there in the Bible. As it's there, of course, but it's not like in the Ten Commandments that you shouldn't be possessive or have this material detachment. So that has, since I had a very materialistic kind of education and background, my parents are lawyers, and I studied engineering and economics. So I was perfect for being like a big material accumulator, and I still hope I am, but I don't have the same craving for the material side of it, so to speak. So that and also that I was drawn to India. For me and most people in Sweden, India, it looks like a wow. What is this? It's a big ass country, a lot of people, and dirty everywhere, and so on. Why do you want to go there? For me, I was drawn into this civilization where no people from Sweden very seldom go to India. It's like, okay, you go to China, or but maybe you go to India, but you don't stay to India. Historically, Sweden don't have that strong connection with India. So having contacts with the whole Indian hemisphere, that has really changed my life.
Okay, so
Jainism has brought me into that, because without Jainism, I wouldn't have dared going to Bombay or Bangalore or Delhi, because it would have been too crazy. I wouldn't know where to start. But from Jainism and from friends within Jain friends, I was able to get very nice contacts, juicy contacts of knowledge and so on in India.
So मैंने अभी जस्ट उनको ये पूछा कि उन्होंने ये जो धर्म अपनाया है वो कैसे फॉलो करते हैं, जब स्वीडन में रह के ये चीज कैसे फॉलो कर सकते हैं जब उनके आजू बाजू कोई भी नहीं है जो जैन है। तो उन्होंने समझाया कि एक तो वो जो हमारे बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स है जैनिज्म के, जैसे अपरिग्रह है, अनेकांतवाद है, ये सब अलग अलग जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स है ये वो फॉलो करते हैं। और इनके लिए सबसे ज्यादा मुश्किल जो लाइफस्टाइल चेंज था वो था कि वो कभी कभी वेजिटेरियन नहीं खाते थे। और आप जानेंगे ऑब्वियसली कोई भी जो स्वीडन या कोई भी यूरोपियन कंट्री से आता है, मोस्टली उनकी डाइट बहुत ही अलग होती है हमारे से। तो उनके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा डाइट चेंज था जो उन्होंने फर्स्टली एक लाइफस्टाइल चेंज था। और उसके बावजूद भी जब वो इतने ड्रॉन इतने इंडिया से प्रभावित थे, जब उन्हें इंडिया आना था तो सब जो उनके आजू बाजू थे जो स्वीडन में लोग थे उनको लगता था कि इंडिया क्यों कोई जाएगा। इंडिया को तो पहली बात तो कोई एक स्वच्छ देश कहता नहीं था, अब तो भी थोड़े चेंजेस आए हैं। तो वो चीजें थी जो उनको बहुत सारे लोगों ने बोला था कि वो क्यों जा रहे हैं, अगर जा भी रहे तो वहां रहने क्यों जा रहे हैं। और तो भी उन्होंने वो सब बातें नहीं, वो सब छोड़ के वो इंडिया आए और इधर आए क्योंकि उन्हें ज्ञान चाहिए था। So anyway, coming back to you, Axel, now I've translated and I hope I've done a fairly good job at it. I just want to ask you, you spoke about your lifestyle change, you spoke about what drawn you towards India. I want to ask you, how was Guruji a big source of inspiration for you, and what were the learnings from him?
There are so many, and since I don't speak Hindi, I only speak Toda Hindi. So when I've been listening to his sermons, I haven't been able to understand the exact details of it, but just interacting, listening to the sound, listening to the people, how he treats other people, and how I was treated, how I was welcomed as a complete outsider, and allowed to sit very close to him during his sermons and so on, and appreciated for my straightforwardness in coming to India, or following my interest and towards Jainism. That really inspired me in such a close-held community, that he was so open and willing to talk to somebody from the outside. So, then of course different small snippets of teachings that I shouldn't pick my nose. For instance, he had a big laugh about that. Was that it's not good to pick your nose. I never had that insight back from Sweden, and then last year I was in a manic phase. I'm slightly manic depressive, so I was in a manic phase, and I felt that was here in Sweden, that I was in contact with Guruji in India, almost through the clouds, and that he taught me that I shouldn't pluck fruits from the elderflower tree too early, because that would be papa. Whereas if I would pluck them at the right time when they are mature, that is punya. So I had for like a few days or so on, I had trials and tribulations, and in the end I felt that I had gotten the message from Guruji.
Okay. So अब एक्सेल को मैंने ये पूछा कि उन्होंने गुरुजी से क्या सीखा और उनके लिए वो सोर्स ऑफ इंस्पिरेशन कैसे थे। तो सबसे पहले तो उन्होंने बताया कि गुरुजी बहुत ही वेलकमिंग थे, बहुत ही स्टार्टिंग से, जब से एक्सेल उन्हें मिले हैं तब से वो कभी भी एक्सेल को ऐसे नहीं फील हुआ कि वो एक आउटसाइडर थे, वो हमेशा एक पार्ट थे। वो एक चीज है। और अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट उन्होंने काफी चीजें उनकी लाइफ के थ्रू समझाई, उनके बिहेवियर के थ्रू एक्सेल को बहुत सारी चीजें समझ में आई। और जब एक्सेल का बुरा फेज चल रहा था लास्ट ईयर, तो एक्सेल को रियलाइज हुआ कि जो भी चीजें गुरुजी ने सिखाई थी, जो आई थिंक रिलेट होती है कर्म से, कि वो जब सही वक्त आएगा, जब सब ठीक हो जाएगा, तो वो एक चीज है जो एक्सेल को बहुत ही ज्यादा हेल्प हुई है स्वीडन में रह के भी। वो एक फिलॉसफी है जो उनके साथ रही है। तो अब मैं उनको एक क्वेश्चन पूछने वाली हूँ, वो कर्म के बारे में। तो अब बेसिकली what do you think, what is your understanding of the karma philosophy? I know that you've taken keen interest in this subject. So what is your understanding of it? Can you just tell us a little about it?
Sure. In the beginning, one relation is Plato, the great Western philosopher. He spoke of pelon, which means soul dust. So for me, I think that karma and pelon, or soul dust, that Plato spoke about, is pretty much the same concept. But within Jainism and other dharmic traditions, the karma concept is much more elaborated. Of course, with the seven tattvas, jiva, jiv, ashrava, samvara, niryara, bandha, moksha, those concepts, or those tattvas, of course, form a big part of it, for me at least. And then the papa and punya, of course, additionally. But I don't go. And then also, it's a good question actually, because when I moved to India after after going to India twice, I moved to India and I stayed in India for 3 years, where I studied Jyotish Shastra. And there, one can think of when one is born and you have a lot of ashrava, karmic influx from when you come out from your mother's womb. Knowing your kundali can help you to challenge certain aspects of your personality, and why do I always nag at my brother, or why do I always end up in these situations? If it's there in my kundali, then it's then you have to go a little deeper than going the normal blame game route. Yeah, but basically, I regard it as soul dust, something separate from the soul, from the G.
Okay. तो बेसिकली इनका आंसर ये था कि जो कर्म फिलॉसफी है, जो एक उन्होंने सबसे पहले पढ़ी थी प्लेटो के बुक्स में, ऑफकोर्स उनका सिंपोजियम, काफी चीजें जो प्लेटो ने लिखा है उसमें उन्होंने मेंशन किया था सोल डस्ट के बारे में, जो काफी सिमिलर है कर्म फिलॉसफी से। और उसके बाद उन्होंने कर्म के बारे में जानना चालू किया, और जैनिज्म में ऑफकोर्स ये बहुत ही एलैबोरेटेड वर्जन में है, बहुत ही डिटेल्ड वर्जन है कर्म का, तो उन्होंने वो सीखा। और उन्होंने ऑफ कोर्स तत्व के बारे में जाना, और पाप और पुण्य और ये सब चीजों के बारे में जानना शुरू किया। उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि उन्होंने ज्योतिष शास्त्र भी सीखा जब वो इंडिया आए थे, और जब ज्योतिष शास्त्र सीखा उनको सब पता चला कि जो कुंडली में होता है वो क्यों होता है, मैं ऐसा क्यों बिहेव करता हूँ, ये शायद मेरे पास्ट की वजह से हो सकता है, और उसमें भी शायद कर्मों की वजह से काफी चीजें रिलेशन में हो सकती हैं। So, Axel, my question to you, in fact, we spoke about this also. And I know what you believe in, but, for people who might be listening to how you believe in Jyotish Shastra, I just want to clarify that you don't believe in the looking of future, because you still believe in karma.
No.
And how things aren't determined from the beginning. It's what you create of it. If I'm correct, that's how you interpret it also, right? You simply look at Jyotish Shastra how? Can you just talk about it a little? Because there is a question that Jainism and astrology are very different in nature. One says that everything is written, while the other says that you create your own path.
Yes, and Pushparanti, my guru, he told me that I will have to forget about astrology in the end. But it's such a vast shastra, the Jyotish. I've read somewhere that it's the Veda, the lens which you see the other Vedas through. Because without light, how can you study? With that said, I find it a tremendously beautiful shastra and interesting shastra. Here in Sweden, astrology is very much frowned upon. It's like people don't look at it at all. But people enjoy astronomy, astronomy. So I've been studying more of astronumerology, which is actually very similar to astronomy, but it's not really the same. It's more something in between astronomy and astrology, related to the numbers. And great Jyotishas, say for instance one Prashant Trivedi, he says that Jyotishastra comes from numerology.
So Ashi,
and I intermingle Jainism and Jyotish. I like to put them together and see what happens.
All right. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Ashi, I'll just interfere with my question, if you permit me, Ashi.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So on a lighter note, to just make it getting into too serious one, Axel, I've been following the Swedish companies quite closely, and to my audience, just to make them understand, आपको मैं बता देता हूँ कि स्वीडन स्कैंडिनेवियन कंट्री के अलावा बहुत ब्यूटीफुल है। उसके अलावा हम स्वीडन कंपनी के हर चीज को रोज न रोज चूते हैं। तो उनको एक मैं प्रश्न है, बट पहले मैं बता देता हूँ स्वीडिश कंपनी इंडिया में जो पॉपुलर है, जैसे आपने देखा होगा H&M जो कपड़े लेते हैं वो स्वीडिश कंपनी है। वोल्वो, अभी कोई कंट्रोवर्सी है उस पर शेयर्स बेचा होगा, बट वोल्वो इज अ स्वीडिश कंपनी, स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम एरिक्सन, वो भी स्वीडिश कंपनी है। IKEA जो अभी अभी इंडिया में स्टोर्स खोल रहा है वो भी स्वीडिश कंपनी है। स्पॉटिफाई जो अगर आप सॉन्ग्स वगैरह सुनते हैं स्पॉटिफाई पे, तो वो भी स्वीडिश कंपनी है। एक छोटा सा देश है बट इतनी देश भर के पॉपुलर कंपनी उन्होंने बना दिया। मेरे स्वीडिश का फेवरेट है टेनिस प्लेयर बॉर्ग, वो भी स्वीडिश से है, सो आई फॉलो टेनिस। और इंडिया में एक थोड़ा गलत तरीके से स्वीडिश कंपनी को जानते हैं जिसका नाम है बोफर्स, तो वो भी स्वीडिश कंपनी है। थोड़ा उसका एक अलग इमेज है इंडिया में। तो मेरा प्रश्न इनसे यह है, एक्सेल, आई एम ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड, आई एम ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन हाउ दिस लार्ज, being a small country, Swedish has managed to do such a large companies spreading all over the world. And my another favorite Swedish company is Happy Socks, which can just making socks, how they made a world's most popular company. So I'm basically a big fan of Swedish on a more in a materialistic way, because we buy H&M, we buy socks, we do Spotify, we travel in Volvo buses, everything Swedish company touches us. So my question to you is, how this craving, you said the craving of the materialistic things, we all talk about aparigraha, but how did you manage to reduce that craving, or you manage to control the cravings? We all have cravings for different people, different things, but how did you, knowing aparigraha, being in Swedish company, which is such a large Swedish country, which is such a large company, how did you manage to reduce or control your craving? Can you just tell that on that? And Ashish, can you just translate this question before he answers?
Okay. तो बेसिकली क्वेश्चन ये था कि बहुत सारे कंपनीज हैं जो स्वीडन से ओरिजिनेटेड है, जो काफी स्वीडन में चालू हुई है, और ऑफ कोर्स आपको सबको पता होगा क्योंकि काफी इंडिया में आ चुकी है। तो इतनी सारी चीजें उनके आजू बाजू होते हुए भी उन्होंने कैसे ये सब चीजों का मोह जो होता है वो निकाल दिया और जैनिज्म को अपनाया और अपरिग्रह को अपनाया स्पेसिफिकली। तो अपरिग्रह बेसिकली कि नॉन होर्डिंग, कि ये सब चीजों की मटीरियलिस्टिक चीजें नहीं होते, सबको दूर हटाया। कैसे किया, ये क्वेश्चन है।
So Axel, I hope you got my question. Surrounded by so many large companies, how did you manage to control or reduce your craving for materialistic things?
I think it's I think it's a very good question. I would say that Sweden, there are many reasons. One's because we have a lot of contacts with the outer world, and during World War I and World War II, we were neutrals. We were selling to the Western world and to the communists as well, and we had an industry, so we could get up our industrial empire, so to speak, or company empire. And at the same time, we are small, so we have to be focused. And coming into I mean, for me, it was a practice of practicing, knowing that there is. It was my great teacher, Manish Modi. The first lesson he taught me was Jeev Ajeev. And with that said, even in that lesson comes this aparigraha, that there is some difference between me and the material world all the time. And with that comes also, of course, aparigraha. And I just found that principle to be very nice, because I grew up in an affluent household and so on, and it sort of struck me that why should I accumulate more and more and more and more and more when I already have, and so on. But this with Jeev Ajeev, that is the starting lesson in Jainism, as Manish Modi taught, that it was a water divider.
Ashi, will you take the translation, please?
It's not easy.
Yeah, I know it's not easy. We all find this
Coming.
challenge every day. Ashi, can you take this translation, please?
Yes, yes. So basically उन्होंने ये बताया कि ये सब चीजें होने के बावजूद भी उन्होंने उनके लिए ये पॉसिबल था क्योंकि उनके लाइफ में एक गुरु थे. ऑफ कोर्स परमानंद सागर जी तो थे ही, पर उनके बहुत ही करीबी दोस्त मनीष मोदी जी, जिन्होंने उनको जीव अजीब की फिलॉसफी समझाई. और ये फिलॉसफी समझने के बाद उनको रियलाइज हुआ कि ये चीजें कंट्रोल करने की जैसी हैं, और थ्रू उसके उन्होंने ये सब मोह को दूर किया. आई होप आई डिड अ गुड जॉब.
You did an excellent job. मतलब इनका कहना है कि इनका ये भी कहना था कि एक बहुत एफ्लुएंट फैमिली में जन्म लिया था इन्होंने. एफ्लुएंट, आशी, कैन यू से एफ्लुएंट इन हिंदी?
बहुत ही रिच इज आल्सो बहुत ही
नील भाई, यू कैन आल्सो कम इन टीचिंग प्लीज.
बहुत ही वैभवशाली परिवार में, बहुत ही धनाढ्य परिवार में, बहुत ही संपत्तिवान परिवार में जन्म लिया था.
Neil will always come with 3 answers. Anyhow. So इनके उतने धनवान परिवार में जन्म के बावजूद भी उनको ये जीव अजीब का समझने आने से उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि और क्यों धन अपने को इकट्ठा करना है, which is challenge for all of us, including me. We don't understand why do we still need to accumulate more and more, and I am also one of them. So I just wanted to understand. I hope we took lots of lessons from Axel today, at least for me, for sure. Thank you very much, Ashi.